Tony finally decided to marry the same woman cheated with. And for reasons only a bruised ego can explain, he wanted his ex-wife, Tammy, to witness it. So he sent her a wedding invitation. Tammy read it once, closed the invite, opened her laptop and booked a flight. On the wedding day, the hall was full, glistening with luxury, gold drapes, chandeliers, smiles that didn't quite reach the eyes and gossip disguised the celebration. Tony stood in the center, chest pushed forward, basking in all the attention he was getting. The spotlight was on him. Then a black SUV pulled into the compound. The driver stepped out, walked to the back door, opened it slowly, and Tammy stepped out. She wore peace like a tailored suit. Behind her, 3 children stepped out, healthy, confident, carrying themselves with quiet dignity. The wedding hall fell silent, whispers stopped mid-sentence, even the music seemed to fade. Tony's smile collapsed slowly and painfully, like a candle melting in the midday sun. He walked toward her. "So, you came?" he said, forcing bravado. Tammy didn't smile, she simply said, "I came to see." Inside the hall, she walked straight to the gift table and dropped just one envelope. And every eye followed her hand. But to understand why Tammy's arrival struck the everyone silent, we need to go back. Tammy had always been the kind of girl people remembered, even if they only met her once. Not because she made noise or demanded attention, but because she had a presence. She was the girl whose hand shot up first in class, the one who could solve math questions while others were still copying the formula. Teachers liked her. Students admired her. Some envied her. But everyone could see she was someone who could go far. She was the shining star of her secondary school, winner of state spelling bees, mathematics competitions, and science fairs. Her photograph hung on the principal's office wall with the caption, "Our Pride." Whenever she held a medal, her eyes softened with hope. She dreamed of becoming a doctor because she genuinely wanted to heal people. She had seen enough pain to know the world needed healing. But while the world clapped for Tammy, home was a different universe. Her father, Ignatius, saw none of her brilliance. He was a man whose life had once held possibilities but had long since been swallowed by bottles of cheap gin and the company of women who laughed loud and left quickly. The village knew him as the man who drank from dawn to sunset. Glass in hand, shirt half-buttoned, bloodshot eyes. There had been a time, years ago, when Ignatius dreamed too. He had wanted to be a carpenter, known for building beautiful furnitures. But disappointment had chipped away at him piece by piece. Jobs had fallen through. Opportunities had disappeared in smoke. Life had felt unfair. One drink became 2. 2 became 10. Soon, life became something that just happened to him while he drank. Tammy learned early not to expect praise from him. She would return home from competitions carrying medals, but Ignatius barely looked up. Sometimes he would sneer, muttering that education was a waste of time for a girl. Other times, he ignored her entirely. He spent his days drinking, his evenings arguing, and his nights stumbling. Tammy's mother, Mary, was the one who tried. She was soft-spoken, gentle, and tired in a way that settled into her bones. Each day, she walked miles along dusty roads hawking groundnuts just to keep the family fed. The straps of her tray cut into her shoulders, leaving marks that never quite faded. Yet she wore a small smile each time she welcomed Tammy home from school. Mary had once wanted more too. As a young girl, she had dreamed of becoming a seamstress, owning a shop, making beautiful dresses, building a life where her children would never know hunger. But marriage had come early, children had come quickly, and responsibility had settled heavily. "You will go far," Mary would say. "Don't let the world stop you." Those words were the thread Tammy held onto when everything else felt like it was falling apart. By the time Tammy finished secondary school, her exam results were so good that teachers, community leaders, and even strangers were sure she would get into university. But dreams needed money. And money was something the family never had. Mary tried to raise the fees. She sold her clothes, pots, and even the small jewelry she had saved from her wedding. She went from house to house asking if anyone needed tailoring, cooking, cleaning, anything. Some people were kind. Others turned her away. The sun burned her skin, the rain drenched her clothes, but still she tried. Friends tried to help, but their contributions were not enough. The gap between what she had and what she needed was too wide. One evening, Ignatius returned home drunk, slump-shouldered and sour-faced. He announced, without shame or hesitation, that Tammy would be going to Lagos to work as a housemaid for his sister. It wasn't a discussion. It was an order. Mary protested quietly. Tammy said nothing. She knew silence was sometimes the only way to survive. The next week, she left home. Life in Lagos was loud, crowded, and fast in a way that felt overwhelming. Her aunt's home was small but functional. Tammy worked long hours, cleaning, cooking, bathing children, preparing lunchboxes, washing clothes. She did it all without complaint. Her aunt's husband barely noticed her. Her aunt, though not unkind, was demanding and sharp-tongued. There were days Tammy woke before dawn and didn't sit until late evening. Some mornings, she washed clothes until her fingers wrinkled. Some afternoons, she chased toddlers through cramped hallways. Most nights, she cried quietly into her pillow, soft tears that no one would hear. Her monthly salary was barely enough to sustain her, but Tammy sent almost all of it home to her mother. She kept just enough to buy soap and occasionally a small snack. Her dream of university flickered dimly, but it didn't die. She told herself, one day. Months passed. Then a year. Then another. Mary continued to struggle too. She fell ill often, coughs that rattled, fevers that burned. But she still went out each day to sell groundnuts. She couldn't afford to stop. Her feet cracked. Her back ached. But she still hawked. She believed in Tammy. That belief was her fuel. Then came the Christmas. Tammy returned to the village. She stepped into the family compound and instantly sensed something was different. People had gathered. Her father was dressed better than usual, sitting upright as though he were an important man. A stranger stood beside him, a man in his mid-30s, wearing a well-pressed shirt and a confident expression. Tammy didn't know him. He didn't wait for introductions. He said he wanted to marry her. He said he admired her character. He said he would send her to the university to study any course of her choice. Before Tammy could speak, Ignatius clapped his hands together in satisfaction. Mary's face crumpled at the edges, but she said nothing. She had grown too tired of fighting battles she could not win. The bride price was paid the next morning. Tammy became a wife. Her new husband, Tony, worked in Lagos. He took her back there within days of the wedding. At first, he was polite and sometimes distant, but not cruel. He told her she didn't need to work anymore. He wanted her to stay home, take care of the house, and eventually start a family. Tammy agreed. She was used to adjusting. But gradually, the politeness faded. Tony began coming home late, smelling of perfume Tammy didn't wear. He started locking his phone. He stopped eating dinner with her. When Tammy asked questions, he would say she was nagging. A wife should know her place, he told her. Then one evening, she found out he had gotten another woman pregnant. Her world came tumbling down. When she confronted him, he laughed, a sharp, careless sound. You should be grateful you have a husband at all, he said. When she didn't accept the insult quietly, he beat her up mercilessly. The abuse didn't stop there. Some days, he would go silent, refusing to speak to her unless he wanted something. Other days, he would erupt over small things, salty food, clothes not folded quickly enough, her snore too loud. Tammy learned to shrink. She moved quietly, cooked carefully, spoke rarely. But the more she shrank on the outside, the more something grew inside her. A quiet realization. No one was coming to save her. She would have to save herself. The next morning, she packed a small bag and left the house. She went to a community health center she had passed many times. She asked the nurse at the front desk if there were opportunities to volunteer. The nurse looked at her bruises, then handed her a form. Tammy began volunteering there, cleaning, organizing supplies, helping patients fill out forms. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a door. The staff noticed how quick she learned. One of the doctors, a woman named Dr. Adebayo, took a special interest in her. She gave Tammy old textbooks, allowed her to observe procedures, explain things slowly and clearly. Tammy studied at night when the rest of the city slept. Months passed. Then one afternoon, the health center hosted a medical outreach program. University representatives attended. When they saw how Tammy assisted with patient intake, how she communicated, how she organized, they asked about her background. She told them everything. Someone made a call. Someone else signed a form. A scholarship opened. Tammy was accepted into a university to study nursing. She didn't tell her husband nor her father. She didn't need anyone's permission. University was not easy. She worked part-time at a pharmacy. She studied late. She failed sometimes but succeeded more often. Slowly, she began to rebuild her confidence. 4 years later, she walked across a graduation stage wearing a white gown. It was her induction into the nursing profession. And she invited someone, her mother. Mary arrived in a borrowed dress, holding her hands tightly together. When she saw Tammy standing tall, wearing her white gown, she cried. After the ceremony, Tammy and Mary ate small bowls of jollof in a roadside canteen and laughed the way women laugh when a heavy thing has finally rolled off their chests. That same evening, someone sent Tony a photo from the event. Tammy in a white gown, smiling with her mother beside her. He stared at the photo for a long time, his jaw clenched, his pride burning. To him, Tammy's achievements weren't just a surprise, they were an insult. He had not given her permission to rise. He had not authored her success. The sight of her looking complete without him ignited something cruel. Men like Tony believed leaving should leave you smaller. Tammy looked taller. 2 days later, Tammy was leaving the health center early in the morning to buy bread. The street was quiet. The air was cool. She didn't notice the 4 men walking toward her until they were too close. One grabbed her wrist. Another pushed her to the ground. Next time, stay where your husband put you. They kicked and landed loud blows to her on the ground, at a hard blow to her ribs, boots on concrete. Her breath left her. Someone screamed, a market woman selling vegetables. People rushed to help. The men scattered. Tammy remembered the sky more than the pain, wide, blue, distant. The world faded. Her injuries were serious, broken ribs, battered face, internal bruising, concussion. Tammy spent 6 months in the hospital, recovering. She had to relearn how to walk again, how to speak properly. Mary was there every day, worn but steady, cleaning her daughter's face, feeding her slowly, sitting beside her without needing words. The doctors were kind. The nurses gentle, but the healing was not just physical. It was quiet, slow, personal. Tony continued sending men around to look for her. Mary learned to take different routes home. Neighbors walked her to the bus stop. No one confronted him. They knew he was dangerous. During the recovery, something unexpected happened. A woman named Rizai came to visit. She had been a neighbor back when Tammy worked as a housemaid. She remembered Tammy washing clothes all night so the children would have uniforms in the morning. And she remembered seeing her study under a security light after everyone slept. Rizai said, "I know someone who can help you leave this country. To start over." She told Tammy about Canadian Express Entry, the skilled immigration program, not the fake agent version people fall for, the real one. She helped Tammy gather documents, old school certificates, recommendation letters, volunteer confirmations. Mary sold more groundnuts and saved every naira for Tammy's IELTS exam. Tammy studied while recovering, slowly, painfully, but she studied. Her first time walking again was down the hospital hallway. Her IELTS score came back strong. Her express entry application was accepted. 1 early morning, Tammy and Mary left for the airport quietly. No announcements. No goodbyes. Canada was cold, a cold that touched bone. But Tammy breathed easier there. She was safe from Tony and his abuses. She worked in a community health center. Then she took classes in public health, and she got certified. Then she became a manager and a public health consultant. Through steady, patient work, she saved money and invested wisely. Bought a small apartment, sent money home for Mary, paid for her younger siblings' school fees. She didn't speak to Tony. She didn't need closure. She simply outgrew him. Whenever Tony asked about her, Mary told him, "She is trying. Life is hard. But she is surviving." And each time, Tony smiled. Because small men need to believe you are still beneath them. He never once imagined she was living better than he ever had. Years passed. Tony decided to marry the woman he had gotten pregnant. He wanted the village to see how well he was doing. He wanted Tammy to see what she had lost. So he sent Mary the wedding invitation. "Give it to her. Make sure she comes. I want her to see real happiness." Mary held the card in silence that night. She called Tammy. They said very little. But they understood each other perfectly. On the wedding day, people gathered. Drums, chairs, fabric decorations. Tony stood in his suit, smiling too widely. Then the sound came, a quiet, expensive engine. A sleek black SUV rolled in slowly. Doors opened. Tammy stepped out. Her dress was simple. Her posture steady. Her presence is unmistakable. Behind her, 3 children stepped out, healthy, well-dressed, confident. People whispered. Tony froze. Tammy didn't gloat. She simply looked at him and said, "I survived you." And that was enough.